Today, my assistant and I are going to be working on an old mountain bike trail restoration. We started probably about 8 months ago now. The trail was built probably 20 years ago, and it really didn't see much rejuvenation or maintenance work done over the years. And as of the last 10 years, all the wood structures have basically just been falling apart. We're gonna do a bit of woodwork on a lower section of the trail that is part of a jump line we're kind of redoing. I've already done a bit of work on this section already, but there's lots more to go. So this is the lower part of the jump line. It's just a bit of a step down here. I've already done some rock work there. That used to be made out of wood and it was pretty rotten. This is another gap here that I've rebuilt already. You can see it kind of comes down into the pit. The landing is right over there. It's not bad, about 3 bike lengths. And this is the small drop, kind of the setup drop leading into this section. You can see there's a berm up here, and you're gonna roll up here and here, kind of land where the wheelbarrow is. And ideally, this drop will have perfect setup speed to kind of clear this and the bottom step down. And it's a beautiful day to be working up here, which is nice because it's been raining a lot. So let's get at her. So I've already done a bit of work on this drop. If I stand kind of chest high, so we're looking at about 4 feet, so it's nothing substantial. So basically these are about 8-inch round cedars, 4 posts. Just dig them down and try to get about 2 feet, and then you just backfill them with non-organic. Guys just call it gold up here. And then as you can see, the logs are debarked, and that's just essentially for to keep all the moisture and stuff, because when the bark's on, the trees rot a lot quicker, retains more moisture. Cedar will rot, it just takes a lot longer than other species of wood. So today I'm going to do some supports. So I want to support from here to kind of up here on both sides, and do some X braces here on this one, and possibly the other support. So next step here, I'm going to get this old cedar split kind of in half, and I'm going to use this for the long supports. So it's about 14 feet. There's a bit of a crack here, so I'll just try and follow that. But then once I got it split into 2, I'll strip the bark off and kind of mount it up and measure it. Okay, so we got that beat. Turned out pretty good. Close enough to half. Straight enough. So now, flip these over, and we'll strip some bark. This is what I use to take the bark off. They call this a draw knife. And essentially it's just a sharp edge, 2 handles, and then we just go along and we pull it, and it essentially just takes the bark off. So I want to get all the dead stuff off, and then it ends up looking like that over there. All right. So I find it's easiest to kind of go along the whole log at once. It's smooth. It helps if you have it nice and sharp. They get dull pretty quick. So this stuff comes off really quickly. It's nice and wet. And then we'll kind of get down to that. So that's quite a bit. This is why you want to take the bark off, because this just holds all the moisture in. and the logs will start rotting over time. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this whole log, actually both of these, and we'll go from there. So I've got this log all stripped, and I have it hoisted up here kind of how I want it. So here's the side view. Now normally an option would be to kind of mount the flat side, obviously because I split it in half, so one side would be easier. So with the flat side out versus the round side. But a little bit of pride will work. I like the look of the rounds on the outside. So I'll use it this way, and essentially what I'll do is I'll make a line here and I'll just notch it, and I'll just flatten this a bit, just so it sits a little more snug. And you can see it, so it's going 1, 2, so I got 3 points of contact here. So it will support this beam and both posts together, and that'll be plenty for a drop this size. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these notched out and get it mounted. Okay, so I got this all slotted. So not much, just enough to give a flat surface. 1, 2. I took quite a bit out the back there because I'll end up shaving it off the top so it's flush. So let's see how it fits. Okay, so I got it all lined up here. They line up pretty good. A little bit of work to do down there, but once I start tacking it in. So you're gonna want to use galvanized spiral nails. I believe this one's an 8-inch. You just kind of want to line it up first. So that's pretty good depth on this guy. You could probably pull out a 10 if you want, but I don't think you're gonna get much more. You can see back here as the log gets skinnier. So now we're looking really good. So I'll probably put 2 nails in here, 2 nails in there, and then maybe 1, 2, 3 type thing. So we'll get this tacked up. So we got our beat now. Got nails in there, in there, in there. I shaved this off. So it does get hard to nail the boards in, especially when they're 8 or 10-inch spikes. I'm gonna do it on the inside, but it's a little bit extra work. I think it's worth it, because when you get the side view of this when it's exposed, I think it looks a lot nicer with all the rounds. So now I need to mimic this post on the other side, hopefully go a bit faster, and then do some cross bracing in the front here, and then that's about it. So I finished all that up. I've gone ahead and ripped my 2 cross braces that are going to go here. So I'll do one on the side, so it'll go from left to right, and then on the back side I'll go that way. So it's quite long, but I'll mount this up and then we'll cut off the excess after. So it can be a bit challenging when you got one person trying to do this. So I was using some straps earlier, but should be all right this way, I think. If I get this kind of like that, maybe I'll just tack one in. I'll tack one in here. Gets a bit tight trying to do this. You'll notice I'm using just kind of a regular 16-ounce hammer. I was using a 2.5 pound mini sledge, but I found a lot of times when you're hitting it with the heavier hammer, it's more prone to bend them, and a lot of times I just kind of cut them and then start over. So I found while it's harder to hit them in, takes a bit longer, this doesn't tend to bend them nearly as much. So I'll finish this side and then I will put this other side in So I'll go the opposite way, and then I'll be good. And then I'll just kind of cut off the excess. Gonna trim that one down there, and then I'll be it for that. All the bracing is done now. I finished up these 2 cross braces here, as well as the cross bracing back there. So essentially all the bracing and the main structural frame is all done. The next point would be to do some slats. A couple things I want to mention too that I kind of learned doing this one versus the last couple I've done. When you're doing these beams on the uprights here, I find if you do a cradle, it makes it a lot more solid. The beams are less likely to roll, and just there's so much less movement in them. It does take quite a bit of time to notch them out, but by the kind of the 4th one, I did get pretty good at it. Another tip too, when you're nailing, you can see I didn't line them up the same. So essentially you want to kind of drive one in, say at this angle, and then kind of one in from the other angle. So it's kind of like a V pattern, or you could really do them kind of the opposite way. It's just a lot more strength. It takes a lot more effort for them to pull out. Like if they were both straight in, then it would only take one range of motion for this beam to come out. So now it's fighting against multiple different angles. Another tip too, when you're doing the posts like this, you kind of want to make some drainage marks. You always want to think about the water. So the water's going to come down this hill, and it's going to flow right into these beams or these posts, and eventually over time they will rot. So if you kind of make indents here, the water will come down here and it'll catch down here, and it won't puddle by the posts buried in the ground. See, I can do another bit of a ditch here, and then as the water comes down this hill, there's another one there. So something like this, I think there's no reason this wouldn't last at least 20 years. All the previous structures did, and they weren't quite built to this extent. All the little bracing, like the notch work here, again, doing the cradles here, it is time consuming, but I think visually it looks really good, and pretty proud of it going home. So I'll follow this video up with making the slats and attaching the slats. I'll have to do some searching. There's lots of floors to go through and find some old red cedar that's kind of buried. Usually it's covered by moss and stuff, but that's how you find the good stuff, because there's a lot of old growth in here that collapsed from old windstorms a couple 100 years ago or whatever, and some of it's rotting, but that's where you get the best slats out of. That's it for today. I think I'll head her in. That was probably about five hours of work today, doing all the bracing, the ripping, and peeling all the bark off. See you in the next one.